Okay, let's get started. If you just joined, welcome. Thank you for attending. I'm Tammy Williams, CEO of Creative Computing, your host for today's Lasso Arrays webinar. It's in a series of free Lasso webinars. Before we started, I have some brief house notes. For the best experience, it's recommended that you participate in this seminar with at least a broadband connection. If any problems or require connection assistance at any time, please contact WebEx Technical Support. Information about how to contact that is in your registration email. Answering questions at the end of the presentation, you can use your meeting controls chat. It's in the lower right corner of your screen to send questions at any time during the presentation. This webinar ends, please don't close your browser window right away. You'll see the ended dialog box come up, the OK button, and then you'll be taken to the survey page. Okay, so today, what are we going to talk about? I'm going to talk about why use arrays, what is an array, maps and arrays, and some code, and have some time for questions and answers. So where should you use arrays? They're easier for you to handle large amounts of values by assigning the task of naming and referencing the individual items in a collection of data. Faster than lots of individual variables. And ease programming and offer improved performance. But you should use them. Where can I help you? You can use one piece of code to display state abbreviations or a list of countries on all your forms across your website instead of manually recreating them each time that bit of code is on a new page. You can use this to help you manipulate form parameters, to have a variable with your database connection information, to create dynamic inlines, and to hold shopping carts in memory until checkout, and storing every shopping cart entry in a database immediately. Those are some of the places arrays can help in your code. So what is an array? An array is a data type capable of storing a series of values, which are stored and retrieved by numeric index that are accessible under a single variable. And we get data type holding values like a list or values like all the records in a database. It's like PHP indexed array, if any of you know PHP. And when I think of arrays, it's a carton of eggs, except eggs are integers, strings, or other arrays. Each element in an array has an index called a key, a page number in a book that says where the item is in the array. And you can hear some code for what the syntax is for store array in a variable. You can also see that this array holds strings like apple, numbers like free, and other arrays like the array here with cats and dogs in it. Array can hold strings, numbers, other arrays. There's this new thing. What are maps and pair arrays? Data types capable of storing a series of values which are retrieved by name versus index number. These are all accessible under a single variable. Each element of a map or pair array has a unique name. In arrays, which we talked about earlier, each element does not have to be unique. Are different from maps and pair arrays. Simple arrays are like PHP indexed arrays, and map and pair arrays are like PHP associative arrays. Each pair array is like a record in a database storing name-value pairs, where field name is the key, and value stored in the field is the value. Maps and pair arrays have keys and values. Keys being equivalent to a field name in a record in a database, and values being the data stored in that field. database where you can't have two fields with the same field name. Map and pair arrays do not allow two keys to have the same name. In fact, if you create a new key with the same name in a map or a pair array, an existing key will overwrite it. So a new key will overwrite the existing key. So key called first name, and another pair inserted into my pair array with the key first name. This new pair will overwrite the previously existing pair. Let's take a look at code. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at here is a view of arrays. Just going to walk you through some syntax, defining, looping through the values stored in an array or a map. So, array. The array that looks kind of like a list. It's just a list of indexed values. To define array and store in a variable, the definition here. I'm sticking this array in. Pretty board. If you want to see something located at a particular site, like at a particular index, or a page in this array, each element is at a serialized index. So first one is at index 1, second index 2, third index 3, and so on. So if you see something at a particular point, a particular index in this array, you just use the get syntax. So it looks like this. Variable get thing at index 2. And the result is pairs, because pairs is a second position or index 2 in this array. For an array is to use the iterate syntax. Its syntax looks just like this. You look at your array, you pass each element to a local value, a local variable, and then you spit them out. So this syntax, the result looks like this. So if you go above, you can see that list of elements in my array that I've iterated through. To add additional items to your array, you can use the insert syntax. So at top, I defined the array as one statement, and maybe I want to add additional items later on. I would just insert additional items into my array. You have options for the insert statement. You can just insert like this, with specifying an index position, which will put that new element at the end of the array. If you use this syntax, you're saying, I want to insert this element 5 at position 1. Those indexes, inserts, are here. That's what the final result would be. Because I've put 5 at position 1, when I say get position 2 now has apples. So it's there. Syntax is to find something. If you want to find element in your array, you can either find using the get syntax, or you can use syntax. Because my array has 2 elements called grapes, when grapes, I get an array as my result. Now this is important. Use the get syntax, you just get whatever element was at that index position. Use the find syntax, the result is always an array. So even if there was just one instance of grapes in my array, the result would not have been a text string called grapes. It would always be an array called with the element grapes in it. Now, Here are other different kinds of arrays. We've got pair arrays, which are different from the simple arrays we looked at before. A pair array is a map, right? You've got a name and value. It's a name and value pair. So the thing on the left side of the equal sign is a name. On the right side of the equal sign is a value. Say, for my array, I want what position 2. I'm to find the pair that's at position 2. It's a pair array. Using the get syntax, give me a pair array as a result instead of a text string. If I find doesn't work with looking for 2 because what I'm looking for is what's on the left side, so called the key. If you want to find something in the pair, you're going to have to be trying to find it using the name. So if I'm find for 2, I get anything because there's no key that has 2 as the name. There's no pair that has 2 as the name. If I find this element in this array, I've got to use the name in my find statement. So if I try to find B, that's how I get that pair that's in this array. Your statement, a pair array, will do each element in that array. Just remember that each element in an array is a pair. So going through this pair array, I end up with all the pairs. If I want to see just all the things on the left side of the equal sign going through this array, I would have to say, okay, from this pair, get element. So the syntax for that is, for element in this array, first. That's the result. You can now get all the values by get the second. So if I iterate through this pair array and I say for each element get the second, I'll see all values for each pair in that pair array. By using iterate can't be used with the server variables that Lasso creates, variables, locals, globals. Instead, you must use loop. If you use loop against pair arrays, the code looks like this. Okay, for each element, right, that's what we're looking at. We're looping through the pair array, meaning loop through, if the pair array is 8 elements long, loop 8 times. And for each element in the array, so this pair array counts first. For the first element, loop through the first time, get count 1. That's the first element. Get this on the left side is this first. Second element, same array, go to the second position, look at on the left side, and so on. Left side of the equals. Arrays and maps are pretty similar. Syntax is the same for braiding through them and looping them. The difference is here, regular array, you would say array. For a pair array, you say pair. And for a map, it's map : to set one up. When you iterate through a map, you will see that each element is called pair. Each of the name value pairs or key and values are a pair. So pairs and maps look very similar. You do the same thing. You do the first, take it on the left side of the equal sign, and you say second. Take it on the right side of the equal sign. One thing with maps that you don't have with pair arrays is you can say, give me an array of all the keys, all the names of the pairs in my map by just saying for map, give me the keys. That will give you a result that's an array of all the keys or names from your map. And also say, for this map, give me values. That gives you an array of all the values in that map. So if you this map, you'll see these are keys and values. Now, to remove, so that's looking at an overview of arrays, index arrays, pair arrays, and maps, and how they're similar and how they're different. Remove an item from an array, you remove syntax, and basically what you're saying is remove whatever's at index 1. So my array, if I'm using on index 1, I'm removing this element called 5, the result. Now, if you want to remove something from a map or a pair array, forget, for a map or pair array, you're not using an index to find something. You're using the key or the name, this that's on the left side of the equal sign. So in saying remove 1, you'd be saying remove A. And A will remove the entire pair. The result is this. So in our generic overview of maps, pairs, and simple indexed arrays. I could just quickly go through some new syntax for creating, adding, getting, sorting, etc. of all these kinds of arrays. The previous page, we looked at creating a whole bunch of arrays. And the syntax is pretty simple. You use the word array, colon, and you put your elements, separate them by you for these an array. Sticking into a variable, you say equals, and you put the array statement. As you see, a simple array and a map and a pair array, all arrays and maps, can contain a combination of strings, pairs, and arrays. The result of that statement looks like this. To figure out what data type is stored in a variable, variable is called simple array. It could be variable X, and I might not know somewhere later in my code what kind of data is in this variable. Is it an integer? Is it a text string? What is it? To figure out what kind of data type is stored in my variable, I use this type syntax. And that will give me the result of array to say, hey, I've got an array stored in that variable. The big the array is, how many elements are in it, I use size syntax. And you can see I get 8. That's the result of the size of my array, because this here is one element. It's an element that's an array that has 2 elements in it, but it's one element of this master array. The end result is 8. For array, use syntax. Gives you type of the data type stored in the variable, and size gives you the size of this map. And remember, each grouping of names and values is one element. So this element is an array. I have 3 pairs in this map. So the size is 3. If you get a variable and just define it as an array that you're going to be sticking things into later, you can empty array using this syntax. So it's just array with no elements defined. The result of that variable will say array. Anytime an empty array is found, The output will just be the word array. The syntax for creating arrays is to use colon. That's the shorthand syntax. The colon is the thing as doing this up here. Okay. Now, in fixing things in arrays, you have two options, right? You can define an array and stick it in a variable like this. You can define an array and insert additional elements into it like this. It frees things from your array. I'm going to create my array again, an array with these elements in it. Create an array, I've inserted the elements into it. This is what the array looks like. If I want to find elements in the array and I use a find syntax, don't forget, the result is an array of all the elements found. Using the get syntax, I'm looking for what's at position 2 in the array. I want to edit an array. Create an array again. Create an array and elements into it. If I want to edit one of the values in the array, do this. I'm saying for my variable, which is array, get what's at position 2, and change it to capital B. So round, it will lowercase b at position 2. But using this syntax, I did lowercase b. Output after the change is done. Delete an element from an array using the same code, creating a similar array again, right? The simple array that looks like this. If I want to delete an element from my array, I can delete something at a particular position, right? So here a variable, I'm saying remove, actually is a syntax, not delete, remove whatever position 6. And out. Also use remove. You can also say I want to remove something from my array, use a value instead of the position, so you don't know what's in position 6. You don't know that position 6 is what you want to remove. Maybe just know that there's a value called D in this array, and wherever it's located, you want D removed from your array. In that case, what to do is array whatever's for the index number or for the position of that value. And that when you're using find array, the result is an array. So I have to say, okay, if my array find position D, I'll get an array result, array 5. D is at position 5. But the integer, the X number, not a to my deletion. So I have to add this get 1. This is like saying, oh, okay, I found my array find position D, which is array 5, and now I want to just get the 5 out of that array. So I say get 1. So this is same with the get 5. I get enter 5. Then I can use that 5 to say for A, remove index or remove whatever's at position 5. And here's the result. Sort through the elements in the array. Just earlier, array use iterate. You can also use loop. Slicing through a loop using size. If my array is 7 elements, I'm saying get what's up in 1, position 2, etc. You go your array. Syntax is pretty simple. True or false. True means sorted in ascending order. False means sorted in descending order. So alphabetic or numeric, ascending or descending order. What is to keep in mind is whatever order they enter into the array, that's the default order they're going to display. So if we're looping through an array or iterating through an array, whatever order something was entered in that array is the order they're going to be output as you're looping through the array or iterating through it. Almost there, I think we still have time to keep going before questions are opened up. You can convert arrays to strings and strings to arrays using the join and split syntax. Join concatenates or adds each of the elements of an array together. Basically, you have an array and you want to make it into a string, you'd use join. If string and you want to make it an array, you use split. So let's look at some simple examples. Alternate syntax here for creating an array. I'm calling my string array, sticking in that variable. And these are the elements, all separated by a comma, right? The quick, the brown fox. Here's my array. By join syntax, I'm saying elements, put a space between and join them all together. So when I'm done, I have a sentence. Brown fox. Each of the elements separated by a space. I could have separate them by a tab, by a period, by anything I wanted to. And up with a string with each of the elements in my array separated by whatever parameter I chose. Note that using the join syntax, not actually my variable. Variable still has an array in it. The syntax that I use here just outputs the result of doing the elements with a string in between them. If I wanted to store the text string that I got from that join syntax, I would have to stick it in another array. Another. You can also use the join syntax with numbers in it to sum up the numbers. All right. So this array, I'm saying join the elements with a row between them. So it's saying 1 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0 plus 3. My result is 6. And again, it's a join syntax. So it hasn't actually done anything to my number array. My array variable is still an array with the original elements in it. Okay, let's why do you use arrays? How would arrays help you? What could you do with them? Rough examples. Basically, I'm just showing you some code that I've used in the past. To save typing time, this is the abbreviated version of this, but let's say you have a list of countries, and you have sign-up forms on your website, and team members registering, and all contact people putting in their contact information, and everywhere all over your website, you have this list of countries that people are choosing from a select list. Well, I'd make an array with countries. Pretend this is, countries. And every time I wanted to have a select list that looks like this, with countries in it, I say iterate variable for my countries. That's of an array to help you reduce your code. In fact, I use this a lot. And what I do is I stick this variable with values of countries into a separate file and just include that file one of our pages, I need to use this value list. I also use arrays to help you create dynamic inlines and database connection variables. So over this section, you will see that an array to connect to my database. I'll be using that connection value variable called my pair array in inlines. If you look at an inline statement, you'll see that it looks like a pair array. There's something on the left side of the equal sign and something on the right side of an equal sign. And so there's a variable in a file that I include in other pages that have my username and password, my database, whatever. And then my inlines, I would type that stuff over and over again. And if my database name or table name or password changes, a month from now, I have to find it in all the pages in my website. I'll just have to find a page that's been included everywhere that has my connection variable set up and change it once there. Then I add dynamic functionality to it, but then you know what? The form parameters, I want to insert into this variable some additional things. If I inserted one of these options based on a form parameter, the result would look like you can see here that basically I inserted local equals no in existing pair variable, just having my pair array variable be an array. And if you have form parameters, this is what I've used in the past to help me out things, function param statement, and have an update inline statement that looks very simple. My statement to update a database kind of looks like this, right? What's in my update fields? My update fields basically says, look at the action parameters that were passed from a form and strip out anything with underscore dash or the word fuse action. Things that pass that criteria, I insert them into this array called my update fields. I strip out of that array anything that starts with R. My end result is a pretty small inline statement that I'm dynamically manipulated after every form is submitted. Hope this brush overview helps you understand arrays, maps, and pair arrays a little better, and at least gives you an idea of what the potential uses are and how it can make your code better. So I'm ready for some questions. I'm going to check my meeting window to see if anyone submitted any questions. Feel free to submit your questions now. Okay, it doesn't look like anyone has any questions. I'm going to show you where the meeting chat is again in case people missed that. Chat. Enter question. Is this meeting controls window at the right corner of your screen? If you click the chat icon, you can ask a question and repeat it to the group and go from there. It looks like no one has any questions, so again, I hope this was of some use to you. It's almost, actually it's a little after 2:30, so it's about half hour through. Wait, Anna has asked some questions. Here we go. A very last example. Did you load the action params into a var first? Let me go look at what we're talking about. I think you're asking about the fields example. Answer is yes. Code, I would have put the action params into this variable called myparams. Another question is, are these files available online? I will be them all up and putting them online, just so you know, because I wanted to just use a browser to go through my examples. The code is all in BB Edit, and it looks like there's a lot of, there are pre-tags and no process, so that code can be displayed in the browser window as well as run in the HTML page. But we'll be them up and put them on a link off of the training section of my website. It looks like we're done. No one has any other questions. Thank you all for attending. Please, when you log out, you will see a link to a survey page. I look forward to reading your comments. Thank you.